I read the sequel to BookTok's most hated book, Nightbane. Nightbane is the second book in the Lightlark Trilogy by Alex Aster. After the release of the first book, it was heavily criticized. I personally think the marketing just went in the wrong direction, and it was a YA novel that ended up being picked up by a largely new adult audience, who then decided the writing wasn't very good and trashed it on BookTok. On top of that, the book got review bombed on Goodreads before its actual release by a lot of people who hadn't read the book because they decided for one reason or another that they didn't like Alex herself, or they just wanted to hop on the hate bandwagon. Are these the best books out there? No. But I don't think they're the worst either. And I actually did like the second book a little bit better than the first one. But that does not mean that it is without its issues, because there were some issues in this book. If you don't know what Lightlark is, it's about a young ruler who's forced into a Hunger Games / Survivor type of situation, where she's in competition with the other rulers of her land, and the sort of overall goal is that one of them has to be killed to keep the curses over all of their kingdoms at bay. There are different courts, as that appears to be a really big thing right now. We've got enemies to lovers. It very much appeals to a lot of the things that are popular right now. Nightbane is a continuation of that story of what happens after the competition is over. My general impression is that while I like a lot of the characters and I really enjoyed the world building, because I do have a lot of really clear images of the places and different courts that we visit because they all feel very distinct and detailed, it did feel very trope-y. Especially in this second book, it really did feel like all of these specific things that we talk about on BookTok a lot were put in it specifically to appeal to those readers. We had Touch Her and Die, That Is My Wife, Who Did This to You, like all the ones that we know BookTok wants to see right now. I also don't feel like the genre is consistent between the two books. I understand, like, a slow burn romance, but honestly, I would have set Lightlark at the early end of YA, like 14-year-old, whereas in Nightbane, it's definitely, in my opinion, new adult. It is not a crazy elaborate fantasy the way that SJM books are, so don't go in expecting that. And if you're the type of person who really likes to analyze and pick apart every piece of a story, I really do think there are plot holes in this book, so this trilogy might not be for you. But if you're up for like an easy read with some cute moments that's more on the fantasy side of things, I would say go for it. I am now about to get into spoilers for Nightbane, so if you have not read it, this is your time to exit. Goodbye. So, we pick up right where Lightlark left off. Isla has her wildling power, and she's also able to use Starling and Nightshade. Right now, the big question is whether Starling is going to accept her as their new ruler. Reminder that in the last book, the girl who she thought was her best friend, the ruler of Starling, Celeste, was sort of possessed. Like, Celeste wasn't really Celeste, so Isla had to kill her, in turn taking her power, ending the competition, but also then the Starling people were sort of tied to her life because the lives of an entire court are tied to their ruler. Isla already at the beginning of the book is having this feeling of like, haven't I done enough? Which honestly is fair enough. She really did go through it in the last book. But Azul, the Skyling leader, who is truly giving off Magnus Bane, says that the best way for her to really want to make that type of sacrifice is for her to meet the people. She goes to meet with the Starlings, and they are surprisingly receptive of her, a major reason of that being that she ended up breaking one of their curses, which originally cursed them to have a very short life. But while she's there, I imagine them as pterodactyls, they're called the Drex, attack the Starling people, and they start freaking out because they think Isla is sort of causing all of this because she does have some Nightshade power, and they think that she is now allied with Nightshade to destroy the Starlings even though she's their new ruler. But the problem with her having all of these different powers is that they are actually starting to war inside of her, which makes things pretty dangerous because if she can't control all of these different powers, they are going to basically like shoot out at different times, and it's very dangerous. And if she can't control her power, it's going to be really hard for her to get all of these people that she's supposed to be ruling over to trust her. Luckily, Aro is going to train her. Aro, the king of Lightlark, who is supposedly in love with her. I'm going to be honest, I didn't feel anything for Aro until like the very end of this book. I just really didn't feel the chemistry that I wanted from them. And I felt really bad because these training scenes were so frustrating to read. She is just staring at a rock for hours on end, hoping that something is going to happen. I could feel how annoyed she was. But she does get to know Aro better during these sessions. I feel like I just got more of a friend vibe from him, even though they do have some cute banter, and we hear more about Aro as a child. Reminder, he is like 500 years old. She is 20. He talks about how his powers were out of control when he was a child and how he ended up turning someone to pure gold, which essentially killed them. And this further freaks Isla out because she really doesn't want to do something like that to anyone, especially when she's going to be around so many people that she's in charge of. Over time, she sort of gets enough control that she feels comfortable being around people, and that is when we go visit the wildlings. She wants to get to know them like Zul suggested, but the problem is that she has been a wildling her whole life, and she has literally never met any of these people. It's not entirely her fault. Her guardians had her tucked away, basically. But now it's a really awkward dynamic because all of these people knew her mom really well, but they haven't even talked to Isla. I feel like half of these people probably haven't even seen her before. She really wants to heal the rift between her and these people, and she feels like one of the ways that she can do this is by getting bonded. It's a wildling tradition where basically you bond with an animal. For most people, that just means finding an animal that you have a special connection with, and it's sort of a pet companion. But that is not the case for a wildling ruler because they have special rules. They have to go into the deadly woods, and the animal that is going to choose you as the person to be bonded to, they have to let the wildling then wound them. And they have to allow it to happen. Those deadly woods almost kill her. I think it's a bear, if I'm remembering correctly, was about to tear her apart when this giant jumps in and saves her. But it turns out that the leopard was also her mother's bonded, and now he's chosen her too, even though he doesn't like her very much. It seems like he chose Isla more out of a sense of duty to her mother, but it's very much giving Tarn from Fourth Wing, so I was okay with it. It was the same dynamic. He eventually warms up to her and manages to show her memories of her mother, which was all very emotional. Meanwhile, Isla is getting these flashback memories of her time with Grimm. We learned in the last book that she has some sort of history with him that she doesn't remember at all. And throughout the book, we get these flashes of what actually went down between them. First, we see her use her star stick to end up in Nightshade. She ends up in this line of women that might be chosen to have the Nightshade heir. So she's literally chosen at random. She goes to see Grimm, and she's obviously super into him. This is an enemies to lovers arc easily. But she knows that the second he realizes that she's wildling, she's dead. So to beat him to the punch, she stabs him in the chest and runs for it. She knows that he will be able to heal himself because he has powers. But the thing is, she doesn't. So if she gets stabbed in the chest, she's done for good. Now, because Isla is with Aro now, these memories of Grimm are just super uncomfortable and kind of painful for her. But it's important for her to remember because Grimm has decided to destroy Lightlark, and they need to know why. They don't understand why he's doing this, which I don't know why. He just theoretically, the reason that he wants to destroy Lightlark is trapped in Isla's memories. And they need to figure it out fast because Grimm is sort of trying to collect other courts to destroy Lightlark with him. And Cleo, the Moonling leader, goes with him, while all of the other courts are sort of trying to decide which side they're on, or they're assembling to fight Grimm. Isla has just gotten her powers and she is still working on them, so the whole rest of the book is sort of going back and forth between training scenes and memory scenes. The theme throughout her memories is that she and Grimm are looking for this specific dagger. The theme throughout these memories is that Isla and Grimm have paired up to find this sword. Grimm wants it because it can control the Drex, those pterodactyl things. We also find out that the Drex were once people, and then we never touch on that again. Theoretically, the sword can make more Drex, which, does that mean he just kills people and turns them into pterodactyl flying creatures? I don't know. The reason that Grimm can't find it on his own is because he can't use his powers to find it. The sword has been cursed so that if he uses his powers around it, then the sword is enchanted to not be found. I don't know if it just moves locations or self-destructs, I don't remember. He tells Isla if she helps him find this sword, then he will ally with her when they go through their version of the Hunger Games in a few months. He's super powerful and she has no power, so this sounds like a pretty good deal to her, and her plan is to somehow include him in her and Celeste's plan. Throughout this process of searching for the sword, they start to fall in love with one another, but then Grimm ghosts her. So she decides that she's gonna find the sword for herself, which I just thought was kind of a weird choice. Like, I get that she wants him as an ally. It just seems weird that she would try to find the sword by herself when she has no power at all. Like, all she has is the star stick, and half the time it's like charging and she can't use it. On top of that, her aim with the star stick is not incredible, so she ends up in Nightshade in one of the like more sketchy areas. She gets trapped by a bunch of guys who start to beat her up because she is wildling. Obviously, this is when Grimm walks in. He asks her which one of the guys like punched her in the face, and when she doesn't respond immediately, he snaps all of their necks. It was moments like this where I was like, yes, like Grimm is brutal, but there were times when it was like past the point of, oh, he'll do anything for her, and it more veered into this territory where I was like, does he just enjoy killing people? I don't know, it felt gratuitous at times. I know that we're all into the like touch her and die trope, but this just felt so extreme. She asks him why he stopped working with her, and he says it's that he's been busy, and in fact he has to go to a ball that night. He says no, she portals anyway. She wants to go, he says no. She portals there anyway. The general vibes of this event are really like Cal and Mai from Akatar. She's dancing with this guy and like kind of looking back to see if Grimm is watching her. He is. He's clearly not doing well. But then at some point he realizes that the guy that Isla is dancing with has drugged her. So he gives her an anecdote and then kills the guy and says that he'll be bringing him back to life so that he can then later properly torture him. Shortly after this, he says that he knows that she doesn't have any powers. But then he also says that he can tell that the curses don't apply to her. So Nightshades can sort of sense curses, which I don't understand. If she can like resist all curses, that has to be some sort of power by itself. When we were led to believe that she had no power, like ordinary human. That said, over time, we develop a theme that Isla is both the curse and the cure. This is shown when she and Grimm are hanging out and they're near Nightshade, this plant that can be used as like a sort of drug in the Nightshade area, where they will take it and they'll feel like this extreme sense of euphoria, but it does end up killing them. They recognize it as the same plant that the wildlings use to create their healing elixir, which can basically bring you back from the brink of death. So in a Nightshade's hands, this plant will kill you, but in a wildling's hands, this plant will bring you back to life. This sort of seems like a parallel for Isla because she has both of the powers, and so she can sort of turn death into life, which sort of seems like where we're going with the entire plot, because she goes to visit the Oracle. The Oracle says that she's either going to kill Aro or Grimm, and that her choice is going to decide the fate of the world. So theoretically, whoever she kills is going to then give life to everyone else, because if she kills Grimm, then Lightlark is going to be saved, and all these people who would probably die in battle are going to be fine. But if she kills Aro, theoretically, not sure why, his death will allow all of the curses to be lifted off of all of the realms. It would sort of make sense if she kills Aro, because Grimm told her that she's a curse breaker. So if Aro is somehow the curse, then her being a curse breaker would mean her killing Aro. Because she has a love bond with both of them, it doesn't matter which one she kills, whether it's Grimm or Aro, because she can take their power and then their whole realm would be connected to her life, the same way she did with Starling. So while we're preparing for this face-off over Lightlark, where one of the men she's going to love will die, I am trying to figure out why we're going to war exactly. I can't say I'm entirely sure. If I'm being honest, Grimm says he's going to war for her. But I thought it was because of the sword situation. But then Cleo, who is the Moonling leader, she says that she decided to join Grimm because if they destroy Lightlark, then they'll be able to use a portal to go to this other land that they were originally from hundreds of years ago. Which is like the first time I think we've ever heard about this, by the way. But in her memories, Isla remembers Grimm saying that he doesn't want to use the portal. So I was just like sort of lost there. And then while they're preparing their versions of like wards, I forgot what it was called, Isla uses emotion to make her magic stronger, which is like, it's a really weird thing where if you pour your emotion into your powers, you start to like bleed profusely. It's something that Grimm told her about. Problem is that doing that can kill you, which will become important later. Back in her memories, Isla finds the sword, and Grimm admits that Isla's father, who is Nightshade, was his guard, because remember that he is like 500 years old, and he had a flare, and for whatever reason, that flare made him able to enchant the sword, because Isla's dad also knew Grimm's father, who apparently was a bad guy, and he was worried that Grimm was going to be the same type of bad guy and use the sword to make 1,000,000 Drecks. It is sort of revealed to us at this point that Lightlark is a smaller version of a larger world that they've left behind, and that the only people left in this other world are these ancient creatures. Which, I'm sorry, it seems like there's enough room in Lightlark for everyone who's there right now, and I do not want to go back to some weird land where there's only ancient creatures. That sounds unsafe. For some reason that I don't know, somehow this sword and the portal connect. I don't know if I missed it. I don't know if it was explained or if we're getting it explained in book 3, but theoretically they're connected. Grimm knew that if he wanted to use the sword to break the curse, that made it impossible for him to use the sword. He was going to have to use Isla, the curse breaker, to break the curse herself. Problem is, if she did that for him, she would die. But now they're in love, so that makes things a little complicated. But Isla, he never told Isla this, obviously, and so when she finds out, she immediately breaks up with him. This is where we leave off with their story before the battle. Suddenly we're back with Aro, and he's telling her what to do if he dies, but her emotions are all over the place and a mess, and it's gonna mess with her powers, I think. And like, I'll be honest, I personally like Grimm better than Aro, and I have no idea who's winning at this point. I had a moment of reading where I was like, I have no idea which one she's gonna go for. Like, I would assume Grimm, just because Enemies to Lovers arc is so popular at the moment. And it just felt like they had a better backstory. But she truly hated him at this point. Like, she had a moment where she was talking to herself. I think she was writing it down so she wouldn't forget, where she's like, I hate him, I hate him, I hate him, so that she would remember, so that she wouldn't get lost in these memories. And like, I feel like at this point, I had not the foggiest idea of which one she was going to kill, because I was like, there's a really good chance that she will kill Grimm and then later want to bring him back to life because she'll regret that choice. But I also couldn't see her killing Aro at the time. It is now time for war. Isla's choice of weapon is poisonous plants. Lynx gets hurt, her giant, and her powers begin to get a little too crazy because her emotions are a little too much. I just have a note that this is the fastest battle I've ever read, because this thing was moving. And the boys are fighting. So Grimm and Aro are up against one another, like one-on-one battling. Aro, theoretically, is a little more powerful than Grimm. And it looks like he's gonna win, and then Aro goes to like strike him with lightning. And then Grimm switches their places so that Aro gets hit with his own lightning bolt. And then I got extremely confused. Because first, I thought that Isla took Grimm's power through their love bond. Then, I thought that she gave her power to Aro to keep him alive and then died. Like she maybe used her power too much mixed with the emotion that it did end up killing her like we were worried about earlier. It says that she felt her heart go still, which like that would be death. But then she's still alive. Like she doesn't black out or anything. Her heart is stopped. And she's still watching Aro and Grimm going at it. Aro comes up to kill Grimm. And then Grimm is like, hold on. If I die, she dies. Because they're bound to one another, theoretically. I'm guessing that's why she's not actually dead. Like, if it was just her, she'd be long gone. But because she's somehow tethered to Grimm, she's still alive because he's sort of helping her with his power. At the same time, Isla, I guess she can feel her powers going haywire. I don't remember what exactly spurred this on, but she's trying really hard to get away from Aro because she's worried that she's going to hurt him. And then Grimm says, like, the classic, stay away from my wife. And I was like, what is happening? Like, I'm sorry. I understand that she was sneaking out to hang out with Grimm and that they went on these little escapades, I guess, at night. But the thing is, and they went on these little adventures, I guess, at night. But the thing is, like, how do you hide a whole marriage from these two super nosy guardians that she has? Then at this moment, Isla sort of remembers what she thought was a vision of the future. Turns out it was a memory from the past where she saw Grimm killing like all of these people. And then she realizes that that is a memory of herself using her nightshade power because she had gone to like berserk with emotion and it messed up her powers and she killed a lot of people. Then we go deeper into her memory and we realize that she did marry Grimm and she begged him to take her memories of her killing all these people away because she couldn't live with herself. Eventually he does, and then he just takes her back to the wildling court with her star stick and leaves her there with no memory of who he is. And that's when the timeline of Lightlark begins. Absolutely wild. And then at the very end of this book, Nightbane, she leaves with Grimm, looks at Aro and is like, I'm sorry, I love you, but I love him too. Reminder, Aro's flair is being able to tell when someone is lying. So obviously he knows that she's not lying. And so at the end of the book, we leave theoretically mid-battle with Grimm. And that's the end. I'm so confused. I know that there's another book coming, but I feel like not enough was explained in this book because I'm okay with not knowing things until it's like, revealed in a later part of the story. But at this point, I just feel frustratedly confused. I mean, I plan on reading the next one because I want to know what happened here. I don't know if her leaving is now going to somehow kill Aro because it was made very clear by Aro's close friend, I forgot her name, but she didn't really like that Isla was with him because she thought it wasn't good for him. But maybe the heartbreak kills Aro or speeds up the fact that he was dying in the first book. We didn't really cover that this much in this book. Maybe the heartbreak speeds up that process and that's how she kills him because the Oracle said that she's gonna kill one of them. So yeah, that's where we are with Nightbane. I have a really hard time ranking this one because I like the characters and I really like the world building, but the plot has me so confused. So probably somewhere around a 6.5 out of 10. I want to keep reading, so I feel like that's worth something. But I do hope that some of this stuff gets explained early in the next book because I really am so confused right now. Specifically about why the war started because I feel like we didn't get a really clear, definitive reason as to why. I also need an answer of who won that battle because I don't think we really declared a winner. And I also need to know if this portal is going to play a part in the next book. If we are going to leave Lightlark and go to this whole new world and we're going to do that all in one book, that's going to be really hard. But that's all I got for this one. Did you read Nightbane? Are you as confused as I am? Are you on Team Grimm or Team Aro? Please let me know in the comments. I need to talk to people about this. Please like this video if you liked it. Click subscribe if you want to talk about more book stuff. My name's Caitlin. Thanks for watching. Bye!